You're smart. Seriously, out of everything you could have clicked on, you chose this video. Most people right now are wasting their time on mindless content, scrolling without thinking, consuming things that add zero value to their lives. But you're not one of them. You clicked on something that can actually change how you think, and that already puts you ahead of most people. So let's not waste that. From this point on, I need you to listen carefully. What I'm about to share in this video is important, and if you truly understand it, it can completely change the way you see money, time, and your entire life. What if the very habit you've been proud of, saving money, being disciplined, delaying gratification, is quietly costing you the life you actually want? What if the traditional advice you've followed for years isn't wrong, but incomplete? For decades, people have followed a predictable financial path: work hard, earn steadily, save aggressively, invest consistently, and then finally enjoy life after retirement. It sounds responsible, it sounds safe, but here's the uncomfortable truth: this model was designed for a different time, a time when life expectancy was shorter, work was more physically exhausting, and retirement lasted maybe a decade. Today, people are living longer, opportunities are greater, and yet most individuals are still postponing their lives for a future that may not unfold the way they expect. That's the core idea behind Die with Zero by Bill Perkins, and it forces a question most people avoid asking. Are you actually living your life? Or are you just preparing to live it someday? Most people assume that saving more money automatically leads to a better life. It feels logical: more money means more security, more options, and less stress. But when you observe how people actually behave, especially later in life, a different pattern emerges. Many people reach their 60s or 70s with substantial savings, only to realize they're hesitant to spend it. They've spent decades training themselves to delay gratification, to prioritize the future over the present, and to avoid financial risk at all costs. That mindset doesn't just disappear when they retire, it stays with them. So instead of enjoying their wealth, they protect it. They underspend, they hesitate, and they often miss out on experiences they once dreamed about. Not because they lack resources, but because they've conditioned themselves to never feel like they have enough. And that's where the real problem begins: not in saving money, but in never learning how to use it. At its core, money is not the goal at all. Its only real purpose is to convert your limited time on this planet into meaningful experiences. But most people reverse that relationship. They spend their best years accumulating money instead of using it. They delay travel, delay risks, delay joy, all in the name of being responsible. They tell themselves they'll enjoy life later, when they have more security, more stability, more time. But that later is never as guaranteed as it feels. Life is unpredictable. Health changes, priorities shift, energy declines, and before you know it, the window for certain experiences has already closed. Because here's a truth most people ignore: your ability to enjoy life is not constant. It changes over time. That's what most people overlook. They optimize for financial returns while completely ignoring experiential returns. And in doing so, they sacrifice a lifetime of meaningful memories. Another uncomfortable truth is that most people are living on autopilot. They're following a script that was handed to them: go to school, get a job, save money, climb the ladder, repeat. It feels safe because it's familiar, but very few people stop and question whether that script actually aligns with the life they want to live. Because when you don't consciously design your life, you default into patterns that may not serve you. You drift instead of decide. You postpone instead of prioritize. And over time, that drift adds up. Years turn into decades, and suddenly you realize you've been waiting for the right time your entire life. The problem isn't that people don't care about living, it's that they assume they'll always have time to do it later. But life doesn't work that way. Life happens in phases, and each phase comes with its own opportunities and limitations. In your 20s and 30s, you typically have more energy, more flexibility, and a greater willingness to take risks. These are your peak experience years, the time when you can explore, experiment, and push your limits. In your 40s and 50s, your responsibilities often increase, your priorities shift, and your time becomes more constrained. Later in life, your physical ability may limit what you can do, even if you finally have the time and money to do it. The key insight here is simple but powerful. Not all experiences can be postponed. Some belong to specific phases of life. And if you miss that phase, you don't just delay the experience, you lose it entirely. This is why the concept of enough is so important. Most people never define what enough actually means for them. They just keep chasing more income, more savings, more security. But without a clear endpoint, the pursuit becomes endless. And every extra year spent chasing more money is a trade-off. You're trading time, energy, and life experiences for additional financial comforts. At some point, that trade stops making sense. Because money is renewable, you can always earn more of it, but time is not. You can't go back and relive your younger years. You can't recreate missed moments with family. You can't recover opportunities you chose to delay. And yet, many people continue to prioritize accumulating more money long after they've already secured their basic needs and future stability. This leads to the idea of an optimal stopping point, the moment when continuing to work for more money starts to cost you more in life than it gives you in financial benefit. This is not about quitting your job or abandoning responsibility. It's about recognizing when you've reached a level of financial security that allows you to shift your focus toward living, because beyond that point, the marginal value of additional money decreases, while the cost in lost time and experiences increases. Every extra year spent chasing more is in a year you have spent creating memories, strengthening relationships, or pursuing something meaningful. And the longer you delay that shift, the fewer opportunities you have left to make it. Of course, none of this means that saving and investing are unimportant. In fact, they're essential. Investing gives you freedom, flexibility, and protection against uncertainty. It allows you to create options for your future. But the goal of investing should not be to accumulate wealth endlessly. It should be to support a life that you actually want to live. The problem arises when people treat investing as the end goal rather than the means to an end. They become so focused on growing their portfolio that they forget why they started in the first place. They delay using their money because they're always waiting for a better time, a higher number, or a greater sense of security. But that perfect moment rarely arrives. This is where the idea of using your money intentionally becomes critical. Every dollar you earn represents time, effort, and energy. If you don't use that money to enhance your life at the right time, then that effort loses its value. The goal is not to spend recklessly, but to spend strategically, to align your financial resources with the phases of your life where they create the most impact. To recognize that money has different value at different ages. A dollar spent in your 30s on a meaningful experience may provide far more lifetime value than a dollar saved until your 80s, because the earlier you create memories, the longer you benefit from them. Another important aspect of this philosophy is rethinking how and when you give money to others, especially your family. Many people plan to leave a large inheritance to their children, believing it's the best way to support them. But in reality, that money often arrives when it's least impactful later in life, when the recipient is already financially stable. Imagine the difference between receiving financial support at 30 versus 60 at 30. It could help you start a business, buy a home, reduce stress, or take meaningful risks. At 60, it may simply add to your existing savings. The timing of money matters just as much as the amount, and by being intentional about when you give, you can create far greater value for the people you care about. When you step back and look at all of this together, a new perspective begins to form. Wealth is not just about accumulation, it's about allocation. It's about how you distribute your money across your lifetime to maximize the quality of your experiences. It's about understanding that time is your most valuable asset, and money is simply a tool to enhance it. And most importantly, it's about recognizing that a life well lived is not defined by how much you leave behind, but by how fully you used what you had. So imagine yourself decades from now, looking back on your life, You're not thinking about your investment returns or your savings rate. You're thinking about your memories, the trips you took, the people you spent time with, the risks you embraced, and the moments that shaped who you became. And in that moment, the only question that matters is this: did you truly live your life? Or did you spend it preparing for a future that never fully arrived? If this perspective made you rethink the way you see money and life, make sure you like this video, subscribe to Sleek Capital, and share it with someone who needs this message. Because on this channel, we don't just talk about making money, we talk about using money to build a life that actually matters. Quick disclaimer: this content is for educational purposes only, not financial advice. Always do your own research. Now take a moment and ask yourself honestly, what's one experience you've been delaying, and when are you finally going to live it?